have a nice seat. We're going to start seated today. Just see if you can get comfortable. So the winds of change are upon us, right? It always is kind of scary this time of year when the cold winds come and you're thinking, oh boy, we're looking at some colder weather for the next few months. But when I realized the big change, I remember that change really is the only constant in our lives, right? We get comfortable and then things change. And then we figure our way around that, and then things change again. And change really is the only constant that happens. And I think that's true actually in our bodies and in our minds. But there is one thing that never really changes, and that's who you are inside your soul. So if you stay present and stay true to your soul, then whatever changes happen don't seem to throw you off, so to speak. So please close your eyes. And notice your breath. And just become totally present with yourself. Let go of all those little things that you need to do today. And just vow to be here for yourself for the next 75 minutes or so. Physical changes are normal, but even from one pose to another, you can feel different. So it's all good. You just stay present. No matter what the winds bring, be able to embrace it. Please bring hands to heart center. And make your intention be that you won't be thrown off by changes that come your way. Changes don't have to be scary. And if you are present and true to your soul, you'll be able to enjoy the beauty and the grace that's always around you and within you. And please lower your hands, open your eyes. And I'm going to have you start on all fours. And do this for me. So get comfortable in all fours and just lift your right knee off to the side. Do it this way so you can see. And look what happens. Your left hip kind of sticks to the side. Your right or your left shoulder comes forward. Just notice that. Good. Now come back to center. I'm going to have you like we practiced last week with our shoulders, just stabilize the shoulders. So think long side body, head of the arm bones back, broaden, and be really stable, front side and back side. And now stabilize your hips. So really engage the outer hips. And then see if you can lift the right knee to the side again, but without having anything shift or move. So the shoulders stay steady, the hips stay steady. The only thing that's moving is your knee to the side. You might not be able to lift it as high. That's okay. Keep everything else steady. And then maybe make some circles with that knee. Maybe it's not a big circle, just really keep the opposite hip stable and drawing in. Try to keep the hips square to the front, same height. You'll start to feel it in your glutes, in your hip, outer hips. Good, and relaxed. And go ahead and take a child's pose. Last week we did shoulder stabilization. This week we're going to do hip stabilization. So let's try the other side. So come on up. Stabilize the shoulders and the hips again. That nice long spine. Think of front, back, and sides of your core. Then lift the other knee out to the side and just notice that. And then when you feel like nothing's moving, you're keeping it all stable, just begin to make the circles. You'll feel it in the opposite hip as well, because that's where you're really doing the work, keeping that hugged in. So this hip, the top of the femur bone is just kind of rotating in the socket. The hip's actually not moving much, right? Good. And bring it down and take a child's pose again. And if you're like me, you can take off a layer. And then moving back into all fours position, tabletop position. Just move into a cow pose. And just notice here, keeping your hips steady, your shoulders steady. And then round to cat. Keeping, just notice, are they square? What are my tendencies? And inhale to cow. Stretch your toes long, round to cat, and sit back to child's pose. Inhale, move to cow. Exhale, round to cat, and sit back. Keep your arms stretched long. Do that again. Inhale, cow. Exhale, round to cat, and sit back. One last time. Inhale, slide into cow. Exhale, round to cat, and sit back. And then coming to all fours again, curl your toes under and just move your hands back and come to a deep squat. So you're just gonna lift up, find deep squat. Feel that. Good, and then come on up to a forward fold. Nothing too scary yet. And then slowly roll up to standing. And I'm going to have you grab your block and insert it between the upper thighs. I like to have it sticking out more in back than in front. And get it as high as you can. I know this is kind of weird, but and then pay attention to your feet and your legs and squeeze the block. And just notice the hips working, inner and outer hip are working. Good, now let's add the arms, bend the elbows, long side body, head of the arm bones back, broaden and extend. Now, keeping the legs and the hip where they are, I'm going to have you bring your arms out and twist to your right. Keep the hips straight ahead. Good. Come back to center and switch to the left. See if anything's moved. And do it one more time to the right. I have to move forward because the wall's in my way. Twist. Your shoulders are kind of moving together. And twist. Good. And come on back to center. Good. Now keep the squeeze on the block and come down to Utkatasana. Notice that feeling. Feels like you're a Pez and you're going to squeeze that thing right out of there, right? Now try and keep your knees just where they are, your hips where they are, and twist to your right, but don't let anything move. Good. And going back to center, twist to the left. Right knee won't come forward, just using your core to twist. Come back to center and stand up. See if you still have a good squeeze on that block. See if your shoulders are still set. Stretch the arms up. Now, keeping the hips just the way they are, arc to your right. Hug the left hip in a little more so you can keep them square. Good. Come back through center and arc to the left. So sometimes we let our hips sway out. In this variation, I just want you to notice the work that it takes to not let that happen and to keep the hips straight ahead. Good. Come back to center. Hard for me to talk and do that squeeze at the same time. Good. You can lose your blocks now, or your block, but just set them up at the front of your mat because we're probably going to use them in a little bit. But now I want you to try some balance poses, but thinking of stabilizing the hips in them. So the danger here is you don't want to scoop the tailbone so that you can't, that you don't have control here. You just want to stabilize the outer hip. So just practice doing that, just standing there. Feel like the block's in there. Good. Now shift your weight to your right foot. Lift the left heel. So don't let anything lift. So you don't let that hip lift. Keep them stable and lift the knee. Think of the outer hips and how that's helping you. Good. And release. And shift. So the weight kind of shifts, but the effort doesn't. Lift the heel first. Keep everything square and lift the knee. Hug the outer the left hip in. You'll feel the glute working too a little bit. Don't scoop the tailbone, lift the low belly. Good, and release. Okay, we're gonna go back to the first side. And you're gonna have to be really mindful. We did this on all fours, but you're gonna turn that knee out and then maybe come to tree pose. You can do hovering tree, or if you wanna find the leg, you can. So standing on your right foot, lift the left heel. Keep everything hugging in, lift the knee. And then bring it off to the side, but don't let the hips rotate to the side. Good, and then you can hover the foot. You can bring it below the knee, or if you want to help it above the knee, you can. For tree pose, just thinking, wow, that standing leg is really working. Whew. And then release the foot from the leg, turn it back forward, and bring it down. Just something different to think about in tree pose. You still have to use your core, right? A lot. So don't lose sight of that. Let's try the other side. Just shift your weight, stabilize, lift the knee, turn it out, and then go for it. Whatever variation you want, you can do hovering. Sometimes you use too much outer hip or glute. Doesn't work. Good. Release the foot, bring the knee forward, and down. Good. Well done. Okay. Take a breath, because I want to try one more fun pose. So we're going to do Uttita Asta Padangustasana, which is hand to big toe, but I like to grab little toe side of the foot. So what you're going to do is just lift the knee, just like you've been doing, hug that in, grab the little toe side of the foot, stabilize, and if you're feeling like you want to, you can extend the leg. And just notice, are your hips staying square and stable? Okay, let's try it. So stand on your right foot, lift the heel first, then the foot. The arm has to come on the inside of the leg to find the big toe or the little toe side of the foot. And then work to stand up and think, my only goal is to stay steady in the hips. And extend the leg out front. Hug the side in. You don't have to extend it all the way. Good. And come on out. Not bad, huh? That's good. Oh, let's play with the other side. One side always is harder for me because of my ankle. So lift the heel, lift the knee, stabilize. Just extend. Just see if you're keeping the hips stable and square. And release. Well done. Yeah. Come to the front of your mat and get that feeling like the blocks between your legs. Really are thinking outer hip, inner hip, not scooping the tailbone. And then add the arms, extend up. Good, and then fold forward, Uttanasana. And just stay there for a few moments. Just checking in, touching the hamstrings back out. And then come on up, back up to standing. Now your blocks are in front of you. I'm going to encourage you to bring them to the higher height. I'm going to do it like this so you guys can see. And then from standing, you're going to pretend like that block's there, bend both knees, and then shift the weight and lift your right knee and bring the ankle across. And then think outer hip stays square, hip crease stays back. Maybe the blocks, maybe you'll need them to stabilize, or maybe not. If you're feeling stable, just bring hands to heart center. Think outer hips, core. Good, and release. Nice. And you can also do this by the wall if that would be better for you. If you're really not feeling stable, that's totally fine, because the wall is just there. You can find stability and then practice tugging the hips in and keeping it stable. So let's go for the other side. Bend both knees first. Shift your weight. Lift, ankle across. You see where it takes you. Oh, I'm losing it on that side today. Good, and then come on out. Nice. Now we're ready for more fun things. So inhale, stretch up. I'm not going to give you all the cues. You're just going to feel it and then fold forward. If you want to use the blocks in a minute, you can. I'm not going to use them for this because you're going to step your left foot back and then your right foot back for a downward facing dog. And then just walk your dog out. Even here, if you bend your knees and think, I'm going to use the strength of my outer and inner hips to lift my sits bones back and up. If you can feel that. And then stretch the legs straight again. Good, and then come forward to plank pose. Notice how in plank, it really helps to use the inner and outer hips. And push back to downward facing dog. Good, bring your feet just a little bit closer together. Bend the knees slightly. Now think to yourself, I'm going to keep the shoulders, both shoulders just as strong, front and back, and I'm going to extend the right leg. Notice that you can't so we have a tendency to let the left shoulder drop and the right hip to lift. I want you to just keep them square. Now bend the knee. Everything stays the same. Make a little circle with the right knee. Feel that left hip working, left and right hips, but switch directions if you want to. Good. Extend the legs, see if you're still stable, and bring the foot down. Good. Go ahead and take a child's pose for a moment. And think about that. That was kind of scary, but you did it. And then make your way back up to that closer foot downward facing dog. Stabilize the shoulders, stabilize the hips, and then extend the left leg. Just notice, did your right shoulder drop? Can you keep the armpits hollow? Did your left hip lift higher than the right? Bend the knee and make some circles. Just allow the top of the femur bone to move in the socket. Switch directions if you haven't already. Hug the right hip in. Keep it steady. Extend the leg and bring it down. Come forward to plank again. And lower down to the mat. You can lower knees first if you need to. Stretch the feet long. Lift to cobra when you're ready. And on your exhale, lower down. And let's just do that 2 more times. So inhale, cobra. Exhale down. Inhale, cobra. Exhale down. Good. Curl the toes, push all the way back. Downward facing dog. Actually, lower to your knees and bring the blocks under your hands if you're going to use blocks. If you can do a step through without them, you don't have to use them. Come to downward facing dog and extend the right leg. And just notice here, even on the blocks, did you hug your left hip in, keep it square, and then bring knee to nose and step it through. Deep lunge. And just take a moment there. Notice if your right hip has a tendency to stick out and your left hip moves back and in, hug the right hip in. Good. Now keep that, lower the back knee. Keep the right hip crease moving back to stay square and come upright. Just notice your heels, your sits bones line up. Add the arms if you'd like. One side body, back broaden. Stretch up. And breathe. Really want you to just do these poses, kind of thinking about the stability of the hips. Good. Now touch down. Lift the back knee, lift the back heel, slide the hips up and back for that pyramid pose. Stretching out the hamstring. And here, notice, do I have a tendency to let the hips shift to the left, to the right? Can I stabilize kneecap, toes, sits bone, allow, or line up, is what I meant to say. Good. Now bend back into the front knee. Don't let anything change with all that. Really keep the right hip hugging in. Bring your hands to the front knee. Come up to crescent. Right hip crease stays back. That keeps your hips square. You have to keep that right hip hugging in. Add the arms. And now bring hands to heart center. I'm just going to have you keep using the strong hips to twist to your right. You don't have to twist very far. Just kind of notice what happens in the left leg, what happens in the right. Good. Come back to center. Touch the blocks. Ground the back foot down. Make your way up to warrior two position. Yeah. But just notice, okay, here, does your right hip stick out? Bend the back knee a little bit. Think I want that right hip to stay in and bring it underneath. I'm not scooping my tailbone to do this. I'm just allowing it to come under more. Then add the arms. Yeah. Toes, kneecap, sits bone line up still. Ooh, good job. It's a lot of work though. A little bit of a reverse. Good. Come back. Warrior two. And then Parshvakonasana. The whole time thinking, using those outer hips and inner hips to keep things lined up. Makes you use more parts of your feet too. Good. Touch down. Turn the back heel up. Step back. Downward facing dog. Let's go for the other side. Extend the left leg. Keeping everything lined up. Step it through. Deep lunge. Just notice you're pulling the left hip crease back if things are lining up, the heel, the knee, the sits bone. Even on that right foot, sometimes things get out of whack. Lower the back knee. Slowly make your way. Anjane Asana, just being mindful of the hips and what's happening there. Outer hips. Help. Good. Touch down. We're moving to that pyramid pose. So you lift the back knee. Draw the hips up and back, keeping everything lined up. Feel that? And you can always go deeper if everything's helping you make this pose and it's staying square. And a lot of times if I hug the heel back and then think I want my hip to stay lined up, things line up even better. Good. Bend into the front knee. Make sure everything's where you want it. Hands to the front knee. Make your way, crescent warrior. Hands to heart center. Keeping everything lined up, twist. Don't let the back leg, move. Don't let the hips twist. Good, unwind. Touch down, ground the back foot down. You keep a little baby bend in the back knee as you make your way up to warrior two. Kind of helps you get things lined up the way you want. Add the arms. Feel the outer right foot. So you can really feel the right hip helping you as well as the left. Good, reverse it. Back to warrior two. Just notice if anything shifts as you move through the poses, and then Parshvakonasana. So the left hip working a lot, but also the right. Open your belly a little more. Good, touch down. Turn the back heel up. This time step forward, forward fold. Take a few breaths. Notice if you were holding your breath like I was. Sometimes you focus so much on one part, you forget to breathe. So tuning into your breath on your next inhale, pranam. Exhale, fold. And inhale, sweep all the way up to standing. You can add the arms if you'd like. And then exhale, bring hands through heart center and close your eyes. And just pay attention to your legs. You feel balanced. Can you feel the work that your inner and outer thighs have done? I know I can. One more breath. And on your inhale, open your eyes, stretch your arms up. Think of that commitment with your hips and your shoulders. Exhale, hold down. Step your right foot back for a steep lunge. Ground the back foot down. Walk your hands if you want to use blocks, you can to the right and turn the left foot forward for a prasarita Uttanasana. Now here, this is a new thing to look at. So see if you can feel the outer hips helping you keep sits bones back and apart. And just see if they feel even. See if your middle is actually middle. And then fold forward. Keep thinking all four corners of my feet are working. Inner and outer thigh have to work to keep even. Does one side feel a little easier to stretch than the other? Just be very mindful. Okay, come back up like a pranam. Walk your hands back towards your left foot. And turn the back heel up. Deep lunge. Lower the back knee. Be mindful with your hips, Anjane Asana. Hands to heart center. Twist to your left. This time hover you can touch the elbow to the knee if you're feeling a little bit more stable or stretchy in the midsection, but don't let anything else change. Trying to see who is good. Unwind. Lift the back knee. Stretch your hips back. Pyramid pose. Uttanasana. Good, bend into the front knee. Set your block forward of your mat. Come up to crescent, just being mindful with your hips. Noticing. And then bring hands to heart center. Lean forward. Hug the hip in. Step that right foot forward just a little bit. And think of that left outer hip holding you as you lift the right leg. Warrior three. Good. Touch it down. Grab the blocks. They were just there in case you needed them. Ground the back foot down. I know you're going, oh no. not that again. Warrior two. Notice that outer hip. Reverse it. Back to warrior two. This time, grab the block with your left hand. It's there. So lean forward, bring your right hand to your hip. Slide your right foot in, bring the block straight out. Think outer hips are gonna help me lift Ardha Chandrasana. You really have to notice that standing leg outer hip, right? But also the lifted leg. Good. Touch back down. Make your way to deep lunge. And step back. Downward facing dog. Go ahead and come down to a child's pose. Take a breath or two. We do have another side to do. I'm really feeling it in my outer hips, and I'm sure you are too. Come on up on your blocks to downward facing dog if you're using the blocks. For me, I like it. Extend the right leg, step it through, deep lunge. Lower the back knee. Make your way, just being very mindful. Anjane Asana. Hands to heart center. Twist. Don't let anything change. Yeah, twist to your right. I should have said that. My bad. Got a little belly up. Keep thinking outer hips stay stable. Good. Unwind. Touch down, lift the back knee. Slide the hips back. Pyramid pose, being super mindful. What happens here? For me, I have to remind my right hip to stay in line with the right heel. Right hip crease stays back, but evenly. So outer hip and inner hip are even. And then fold. Good. Bend into the front knee. You can bring the blocks forward if you want them there for security. Come up very mindfully. Crescent warrior. Hands to heart center. Lean forward. Take a baby step with that left foot. Think really strong outer hip. Lift the left leg. Warrior three. Use the outer hip. Bend the front knee, touch down. Grab the blocks. Ground the back foot down. Come up, warrior two. Thinking has to stay under. I have to bend my back knee to really feel all parts of that left thigh activating. Right hip draws under. I'm not scooping my tailbone though. Reverse it. Head back to warrior two. And then right hand to the block, left hand to the hip. Keep drawing the right hip in, slide the left foot forward. Bring the block out. Really have to use the outer right hip a lot. And outer left hip to lift Ardha Chandrasana. Weight right in the middle of the foot. Yeah. outer right thigh, outer right thigh. Good, bend the front knee, touch it down, turn the back heel up. If things line up and step back and come down to your knees. Keep your toes curled under. Sit back on your heels. Check in your breath with your heartbeat. All those good things. Come forward, stretch the feet long, maybe even widen the feet a little bit. You can do just sitting on the heels. You can do Virasana. You can do Virasana on a block. So you decide. I'm going to sit between my heels and just see how it feels today. And then just notice here. So I have a tendency, because I have a funky ankle, my right hip tends to be higher. So I have to really think about what I'm doing, see if I can even them out. If you want to go to your elbows, you can just evaluate every step of the way. You can just lift your heart here. You can go deeper if you want. It's up to you. Come on out of it. Come forward, shift forward. Move your blocks. Come on up to downward facing dog. You're ready for child's pose. Feel free to take that. I'm going to do vinyasa, and I'm going to go a little bit slow just to really feel whether I'm using my outer hips. So I'm coming forward to plank. I'm lowering down through chaturanga. Utilizing my legs, I'm lengthening my spine, lifting to cobra. And lowering down. And push all the way back, all fours. Swivel your feet to one side and come to a seated position with your legs out in front of you. We're going to do Paschimottanasana, which is a forward fold, but first you have to find Dandasana. So if it feels like your back's rounding, bend your knees a little bit and just so you can get your spine nice and long and tall. And then just see heels, knees, sits bones line up. Lengthen your spine. Actually, add the arms alongside body, have the arms back. Broaden and stretch the arms up. Good. I'll try and maintain that. Notice the hip creases are even. Moving back, just bring your hands down beside you, wherever it feels right. And just kind of being very mindful. Walk the hands forward. Let's see how it feels. Pressing the heels down, lengthening the spine. Legs are very active. And then bend. Come on up. Bend your knees. Grab behind the knees. Long side body. Head of the arms back. Broaden. Utilize the outer hips. Lift the feet. Navasana. Just check here. Do my heels my knees and my sits bones light up. Are they even? Are the hips even? My spine nice and long. Good. Cross the left leg in front of the right and come to seated. Sit up nice and tall. And then bring your left hand across to your right knee, right hand behind you. Just activate a little twist. Feel it in your hips a little bit. Good. Come back to center. Set up for Navasana, boat pose again. Lift. If everything lines up, draw your low belly up. Good. Now this time, notice hips are even. Cross the right shin in front of the left. Sit up nice and tall. And twist to your left. And unwind. Bring the knees up again. I'm going to have to scooch forward on my mat a little bit because we're going to go down to our backs, but from Navasana. So lift up. And then think long side body, head of the arm bones back. Really strong. Tuck the chin round the upper back as you slowly lower the legs and lower your torso. You can see how slow you can go. And then come on down. Oh, there's the mat. Yay. Hug your knees in. And roll side to side a little bit. Got to turn the music on. Huge spider. Ooh, Halloween. We got a huge spider down here with us. Good, now just hold on to your left knee and stretch your right leg straight. Your left knee might have to come away from you a little bit because you'll want to keep a curve in the low back. And then bring your left arm to cactus. Right hand on the outer left knee. Bring the foot on top of the right thigh. So left foot on right thigh. And then see if you can keep the hips even as you roll to your right hip. My knee doesn't come all the way down, but it feels like a really nice stretch in the outer hip where I've been working so hard. Notice, does that hip come towards you or away from you, or can you keep it stacked right on top of the other one? And then turn your gaze to the left. And kind of complete that twist. And then coming on back to center, hug both knees in again. It's a good place to start. And then just holding on to your right knee, extend the left leg. Make sure you have curve in your low back. Right arm to cactus, left hand to the outside of the right knee. Right foot can come on top of the left thigh as you roll. Right hip stacks on top of left with a twist. Stretch out that area you've been working so hard on the outer hip. Maybe even turn your gaze to the right. And then please unwind. Hug both the knees in again. And this time, grab a hold of the knees, bring them wide, and then push them away from you and let your feet come to the mat and let go. Arms to cactus again. And just let your right knee come towards your left ankle. The left knee stays up in this variation. It just kind of stretches out that area you need. Good. And then switch. So right knee up, left knee down. And switch one more time each side. So right knee down, left knee up. And then right knee up, left knee down. And it helps you almost keep your hips square here. I'm just thinking that when I do this, a lot of times people's left hip will move forward or back. I want it to stay even. Good, and come on up. Wiggle the soles of your feet together. Let your knees open for Supta Baddha Konasana. Hands to your belly or to your inner thigh. And just allow yourself to relax there a moment. Being present with your breath, with your physical body. And closing the knees, go ahead and stretch out. Shavasana time. Well-deserved Shavasana. Even here, just kind of notice your hips. See if you can get your legs in a position now where you don't have to utilize those muscles at all. Maybe your feet fall open a bit. Same way with shoulders, get them in a position where you don't have to hold them at all. Allow your skin to soften. Open your jaw. And I'm just noticing all those places where your leg meets your hip or your pelvis. And soften there. Let those ligaments lengthen out, muscles lengthen out. I want to share some words from Julia Cameron's Book of Blessing. I bless Spirit's timing in my life. I surrender my sense of drama and urgency. I recognize that the slower seasons of life are necessary to find my showier and more rapid periods of expansion. I surrender my need for life to be filled with large and dramatic moments. I accept small gains, small victories, turning away from the idea that there is some quick fix which will make me feel heroic and invulnerable. I accept the fact that I am a worker among workers, a friend among friends, and choosing not to force the pace of my life, I embrace wisdom over velocity. Acknowledging that part in you, that spark within you that doesn't change. That was placed in you the day you were born by something much greater. You don't have to fear change because you are what you are. Always the same, unchanged. Finding your breath. Maybe trying to extend the inhalation a little bit more. It's an energizing breath. And starting to move when you're ready. You still have 10 fingers and 10 toes. That hasn't changed, even though you pushed your muscles and your body parts. They still work and they're still there. When you're ready to move more, just draw the knees in, roll to the side, push on up to seated. Please bring hands to heart center. I bow to that beautiful, unchanging part of you. Namaste. A fabulous Halloween. What was why didn't the skeleton want to go to the scary movie? Because he didn't have any guts. That's my only joke, Halloween joke of the day.